Hello, hello, hello. I hope you guys can hear me. Hello, hello, hello. Yeah, we're looking good. Hey, this is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Welcome to Sunday Live. We're going to talk about Tesla Investor Day. I published a video yesterday where I talked about what I think is coming for Investor Day. In particular, what's coming for Investor Day, I think, is in order for Tesla to deliver everything I've been talking about, the battery revenue model, everything else. In order for all that to happen, Tesla needs to deliver. Tesla needs to deliver. Needs batteries at scale. If you want to produce 20 million cars and you want to produce products containing 3 terawatt hours of batteries, you need 3 terawatt hours of batteries. Where are the batteries going to come from? So if you check yesterday's video, I talked at length about the challenge of not just getting the batteries, but getting the supply chain and the materials and the mining and the extraction and the refining and everything that goes into getting everything necessary to get battery materials there. So the idea of today's video is just sort of follow up on that, because I think that's fundamentally what's really, really important for what's coming. We're on February 19th. We're like 11, 12 days away. No, it's not even 12 days. I think we're like 10 days away from Investor Day. This is going to be the biggest moment. We talk about quarterly investor calls and they matter. There are other events that I think are really significant. Autonomy Day was huge. Battery Day was huge. I think AI days were pretty big, but I don't think they were that much bigger than Autonomy Day. And I think this is the biggest thing that's coming for a while, is in order to get to the scale. Everything that Tesla talks about, delivering a robo-taxi network with tens of millions of vehicles, delivering 20 million vehicles a year, there's people who are saying that Megapack is going to be huge for Tesla. You need the lithium. You need the phosphate. You need the graphite. You need the copper. You need the nickel for the cars, for semi, for Cybertruck. You're going to need nickel-based batteries, so you're going to need nickel for that. You're going to need manganese for that. I don't think we're going to need cobalt for that. I think we're getting past cobalt, but there's all these minerals that have to be pulled out of the ground and they have to be refined and made ready. Now, I don't think the refining process is the big hurdle. If you watch the video that I did yesterday, you'll see the big hurdle is getting stuff out of the ground. I know it sounds easy. I know Elon has said there's plenty of this stuff in the ground, but when you dive into it and you listen to Drew Baglino and you listen to Jeff Don, yes, it's in the ground, but getting it out is non-trivial. It's not a nothing problem. It's a serious problem. Am I going to anything Tesla asks, am I going to Investor Day? I don't have an invite to Investor Day yet. If I don't get an invite to Investor Day, I decided not to go. For the purpose of my YouTube channel, it's actually better that I don't go, because I'm able to watch the event, record the event, and prepare a video summarizing the event the next day. If I go to the event, I probably won't get a video out for a few days. Now, I think that there's a lot of value, having been inside the Gigafactory twice already and been to other events. There's a tremendous value in being there. I had conversations with Tesla inside people, key people in Tesla at multiple events. And there's value in that. That doesn't translate into the next video, but it translates into the future of the videos that I make and other things that I do. But so far, I don't think they've sent out many invites. I don't know when the invites are going to come out. If I get an invite, I'm going. And, if I get an invite, 24 hours ahead, I can get there in 24 hours. I can drive. I've driven in 24 hours. I can do it. I'll be sleepy, but I'll get there. My hope is that I get the invite 48 hours ahead or longer, and then it won't be quite so stressful. But that's one cheap lamp in the background. It is kind of a cheap lamp, actually. That is correct, Kent. That is a cheap lamp. That's probably like a $10 or $20 floor lamp with a, I don't know, it's kind of a cool bulb. It's a multicolor bulb. I can change the colors. Where's that remote? This remote lets me change the colors on that bulb and on the bulb in the back in the kitchen. I can change those with that. So Mark Plott, who is the most faithful of all moderators, says use the boring machine to mine battery metals. This is a very common thing I hear people saying. The Boring Company is not the answer. Boring machines do not mine. That's not how mining works. So I think, just to be clear, what I think is going to happen is they're going to present this challenge. This is just a massive challenge. Globally, I think in 2019, the Earth produced 300 gigawatt hours of batteries. In 2022, I think the Earth produced 700 gigawatt hours of batteries. Tesla used about 100 gigawatt hours of batteries, or 1/7 of global production of batteries in 2022. In order to get 3 terawatt hours of batteries in 2030, if Tesla is using 1/7, the world would need to produce 20 terawatt hours of batteries. I don't think that's what's happening. I think Elon and Drew's projection is that that globally will produce 10 terawatt hours of batteries, and Tesla will use 3 of them. So Tesla will achieve 30% of the global lithium-ion battery market, or the battery market. It's possible that by 2030, sodium-ion batteries will come in there. That's another topic we can talk about. I have a glowing halo. I guess if I go over here, I have a glowing halo. But I don't think sodium-ion batteries are going to be there by 2030 in significant volume. It's going to be, to 2030, it's going to be lithium, lithium, lithium. If you get out to 2035 and 2040, then sodium-ion, the research, the academic effort to make sodium-ion viable maybe gets there. So, M asks, is Tesla $1,000 a realistic goal? And if so, when could it happen? It's obviously a realistic goal. I mean, if Tesla is going to go from 100 gigawatt hours of batteries in 2022 to 3,000 gigawatt hours of batteries in 2030, that in 8 years is a 30x. So 30x 200 is 6. If I'm not wrong, that's 6,000, not 1,000. So even if you knock it down a little bit, you get to $5,000, $4,000 a share. And then you take into account FSD, robotaxi, whatever. I think 20, I'm not making intermediate projections, and I'm not saying what the share price will be, but what the value of the company will be. So Sevilla asks, what is the risk to the environment in mining? I think the risk to the environment in mining depends what mining you're doing. But why doesn't anybody ever ask what's the risk to the environment in petroleum and drilling for petroleum and petroleum refining and getting coal? The earth needs electricity. Like we all are. I'm using electricity right here. I've got lights over here. I've got this computer running. I've got this light here. I've got that light there. Electricity was used to make these stainless steel water bottles you can buy at elonbits.com. Electricity was used to make the Cybertruck t-shirt and the Tesla Man t-shirt, and you can buy at elonbits.com. The shipping is involved. We use energy. If you're going to stop using energy, you can whine about mining. Just stop everything you're doing. Stop using all materials. Stop using everything, and you can whine about mining. As far as I know, the mining of lithium, the extraction of lithium from the earth, does not impose greater environmental risk than anything else that we're doing. So let's see. Yeah, just by the way, this is a Q&A, so I'm going to talk, but if you have questions, I'm watching the chat today. The focus today is I did this video yesterday. Hopefully you watched it and you have some thoughts. And if you haven't watched it, I'm trying to summarize that the biggest challenge, people are talking about Project Highland. If you want to ask about Project Highland, I'm going to tell you right now, Project Highland is a distraction. If it even exists, it's not important. The future of Tesla does not depend on Model 3. It depends on the Generation 3 platform vehicle. It depends on Megapack. It depends on Powerwall. It depends on Robotaxi. And it depends primarily, and all of this depends on getting enough battery materials to produce all the products that make all this work. Chris Thomas says, we already know Tesla will be able to produce 2023 between 1.8 million and 2.2 million cars. Was that picture perhaps a sign that Tesla wants to produce 1.8 to 2 million Model Ys? I think the Model Y production will be less than 1.5 million. I think Model 3 will be close to 500,000. And then you're going to have a limited amount of Cybertrucks. S and X will be about 100,000 vehicles, and Semi will be a small number. So it's, I don't know, 1.5 million Ys, 500,000 3s, and, I think it's over 2 million, but who knows? Yeah, and I just want to mention, I had a sponsor, just so people know, I had a sponsor for yesterday's video. I thought it went well. I thought it was a really appropriate sponsor because about lithium. I'm not saying invest in that company, but I thought it was worth watching. Check out that video. There's a mention here from Be Nice about Piedmont Lithium stock. I think anybody who's mining lithium has real potential to take off. I think March 1 is a big question. If Tesla has an answer for how they're going to mine lithium or extract lithium, and it's like it blows everybody else out of the water, maybe that has a negative effect on lithium stocks. I don't know. Joe B says Chile is loaded with lithium, one of the largest reserves in the world. It's Chile and Argentina. It's called the Salars. Drew Baglino mentioned the Salars, which I think I'm guessing that's a mountain range in South America. Can we turn our table salt bottles into batteries? I did put slow mode on, Mark Plot. I can adjust it maybe. I don't know if it's on slow mode for 30 seconds. But let me check on that. Can I check on that? This is just for our diligent moderator. I want to make sure that he's covered because he works hard. Let's see if I can adjust that, Mark. I don't know if I can adjust that. Yeah, okay, here we go. I think I can adjust it. Okay, so slow mode is now every minute instead of every 30 seconds, Mark. Thank you for your support and for helping out. Okay, so any chance of steer-by-wire for Model 3 March 1? No, I don't think we're going to see. I think steer-by-wire is going to be on the next generation vehicle platform, the Gen 3 vehicle platform. I don't think we're going to see it on Model 3 or Model Y or Model S or Model X. Probably not going to see it on Cybertruck. I think it's possible we see it on Cybertruck, but I think it's unlikely. Let's see. Salt and sea lithium. I think there's a lot of options for lithium mining. Yeah, so let's go on. I just want to address this sodium question because I hear sodium a lot. A lot of people, in response to yesterday's video, I saw a lot of comments about sodium-ion battery chemistries. And yes, there are some efforts to develop sodium-ion battery chemistries. And yes, sodium is a lot more available than lithium. And according to Jeff Don, there's a lot more sodium in the Earth's crust than there is lithium. So it's more attainable. The problem is that when you look at sodium-ion, according to Jeff Don, it doesn't have the same energy density as lithium-ion batteries. There's some loss of energy density. And the biggest problem is it doesn't have the cycle life. If you don't have sufficient... Yeah, let's take a minute, by the way, to thank the moderators for helping out with the chat. We do get occasional troll comments in the chat and other inappropriate comments, and they help keep the chat clean. So thank you to Mark Plott, Mark Potocznik, Jim Whitehead's... I don't see if Jim Whitehead's there now, but Jim Whitehead's usually there. I'm probably missing somebody. CM says, so Tesla will go into the mining business. I don't know if they'll go into the mining business. They've specifically said they're looking at extracting lithium from clay in Nevada. So it may be that they've made progress on their plans to extract lithium from the clays in Nevada, and they would be going into the mining business there, yes. They've already announced they're going into the lithium refining business. Hi, Jim. So... Mark Plott says hardware 4 is steer-by-wire. I don't know if we know that. Hardware 4, I think eventually they have to go to steer-by-wire, but I don't know when. Would I rather Tesla buy a lithium miner or open a new gigafactory? Well, they're going to open new gigafactories anyway. The question is whether buying a lithium miner or getting into lithium mining is a better choice than letting others do it for them. So far, it seems like so Raymond Ches says lithium is widely available. The limit is refinery permits and investment capital. Raymond, I'm going to disagree with you. And I think you watched yesterday's video. I think you may have commented on yesterday's video. Jeff Don disagrees with you. Let's be clear. Jeff Don, who is a leading global battery researcher and employed by Tesla, says there is a lot of lithium in the Earth's crust, but in a parts per million in the Earth's crust, it's not that high. And there's this challenge that Drew Baglino talked about of the ore ratio. The more earth you have to move, and the more tons of earth you have to move to get the tons of lithium you want, the more expensive it gets, the more costly it gets, the more challenging it gets. So I think you got to watch that. Todd Moore, yeah, are they working on purchase of mining company? Maybe. Would not. There's actually rumors that Tesla's going to buy some mining company, and that mining company stock went crazy. Stephen Brewer says, would not Mexican geology be similar to Nevada geology? Clay lithium extraction in Mexico. I don't know that it matters where I would think it would make more sense to extract lithium in the United States than in Mexico, but I don't think that's terribly important. The challenge is they have to get a lot more lithium, and it's not as easy to scale. I think people are just assuming it's easy to scale lithium. I'm telling you, watch yesterday's video, watch the part with Jeff Don, you watch the part with Drew Baglino. It's a challenge. It's not as easy as you think. There are multiple challenges, and it's not just lithium. There's multiple challenges in the supply chain, even graphite, which seems really straightforward. If I think we're going to get a reveal about a plan to just completely remake the supply chain for batteries, remake how you're getting the minerals from the ground, refining, or wherever else you're getting them from. There's a lot of stuff that comes from the petrochemical industry, the petroleum refineries. A lot of these things are an afterthought of the petroleum industry. Well, if we're going to knock out gasoline, and we're going to knock out diesel, and we're going to knock out fossil fuels, maybe petroleum refining is going to go away. I don't think so, but it would be nice to have another way of getting the materials that we need. So John Bay says, reminder that Elon has Canadian citizenship, so he and Tesla can own companies in the country. Americans can own companies in Canada, and Canadians can own companies in America. That's not a challenge. Harry Chu says, you cannot mine in the Western world, too many tree huggers. I think there's plenty of mining in the United States and Canada. It may be a little harder in some ways, but it may be easier in other ways. So the point about lithium in the Earth's crust, let's just get to that because Raymond brought it up, is that there's a certain number, there's a parts per million count. And according to Jeff Dunn, when you get out to 2040, the 2040 timescale of the amount of lithium, the amount of batteries we're going to need, I don't know that I agree with him. And I don't know that Drew Baglino agrees with him or Elon agrees with him, but he's saying that the amount of lithium in the Earth's crust might not be enough for all the goals we have to get to 400 or 500. Let's say we need to get 500 terawatt hours of total batteries in the world by 2040 or something like that. It may not be enough. I think his point is that at 20 parts per million, the challenge of getting the lithium out of the earth may be harder than you think. Mark Plott says this correctly. Mark Plott says, Warren, most battery supply chain is optimized for the fossil fuel industry. We need a paradigm shift. And that paradigm shift can be very positive. Number one, if you change how you're getting some of these materials, and Drew's words, I don't know if these are Drew's words, but roughly paraphrasing what Drew was saying, if they rethink the entire supply chain of how they're getting graphite and lithium and copper and nickel, it may be they come up with much more efficient ways to get these materials that lowers the cost, not just for Tesla, but for the rest of the world. So Talon Metals is planning to build a battery minerals processing facility in Mercer County, North Dakota. Could be massive. Yeah, but it's so many different things. And look, if you've got the world is producing 700 gigawatt hours worth of batteries in 2022 and has the supply chain for that, and you're trying to get to 10x that or more than 10x that, the supply chain all has to 10x. And so if there's one project somewhere that's producing some amount, that may not be enough. It's a lot. There's a lot that's needed. And V. Nelson says 100 billion tons of lithium in seawater. Yes, but everything I've heard, extracting lithium from seawater is not an economical approach. It just doesn't work. I think people need to be aware of that. It just doesn't work. And girls in bikinis speed up the process. I'm pretty sure girls in bikinis would slow the process. It would be more fun, but it would slow the process. Thank you, Moon, for that comment. Be Nice says, as a GK ETF shareholder, I'm concerned with Ross's recent rates. I guess I don't worry about the Ross's ETF. I'm an investor also in Ross's ETF. Sentient says, do I think Tesla will hold under $250 until April? I don't make short-term stock price predictions. I don't think anyone can. Let me just address this point because I get questions like this all the time. No one can predict short-term stock prices with any degree of accuracy more than 50.1%. Anybody who could predict short-term stock prices with, say, 55% accuracy consistently, reliably, and confidently would become a trillionaire in a fairly short period of time, and there are no trillionaires. So no one can predict them. And if you can't predict them, then you don't really understand them well enough to explain them later. So anybody who comes out and says, Tesla stock fell because blah, 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 including me, anybody who tells you, I can explain why Tesla stock fell. If they could explain it, then they should have predicted it. And if they didn't predict it, then they can't really explain it. They're offering you an explanation, But if they were reliable and consistent and confident in their explanations, then they would be reliable and consistent and confident in their predictions, and they would be a trillionaire, and there's no trillionaires. Jim Whitehead says, some have pointed out that a major desalination plant using solar or on seawater would extract lithium and other minerals, but I have no clue if it's financially feasible. Everything I've heard, it's not financially feasible. Now, there are certainly desalination plants that desalinate seawater to get water, right? And they remove salts. Whether it's possible to use existing desalination plants and the byproducts of that desalination to extract lithium or whatever other minerals, maybe, but my impression is no, because I've heard multiple times from people I consider reliable that that getting water, lithium from seawater is not going to work. Be Nice says that Ross was flat out lying about Tesla and Elon in his shareholder meeting. Sorry, I like Ross and put a big chunk of cash in his ETF, but I was shocked at what he's saying. I did not hear his shareholder meeting, so I don't know about that. Pelosi's pretty good at short-term. It's true that members of Congress seem to be good at short-term stock price movements. It may be that they have insider information. There's people who say that the way Elon sold his stock led to people front-running the stock. Like, what does that mean exactly? How do they know? I don't buy it. I mean, then people would be front running stuff all the time. I don't buy it. Mitchell Woolridge says the Nevada lithium mines bring up brine, send it to small pools, and use the sun to evaporate the water, but it takes time. I think that's a common method for extracting lithium. I don't think it's the only method for extracting lithium. I think there are others. What about lithium from boring company tunneling? I get this question a lot, and I think I addressed this earlier in the stream. Thank you, Jennifer, for asking. Tunnel boring machines are not designed for mining. There's a reason that we don't see tunnel boring machines doing mining now. I don't claim to fully understand. I believe that the way mining works, you're either doing strip mining, or you're doing drilling, or you're following a vein. I don't think you just tunnel straight down. I don't think it works that way. Mark Potochnik says Ellie thinks mini Starlink is coming. You mean mini Starlink antenna? I don't know. Like for home? I don't know why. I mean, the Starlink antenna is the right size now. I don't think it needs to be smaller. Is there still time for... And there's an important value in having a larger antenna in terms of communication value. So I wouldn't expect to see a smaller Starlink device, but anything's possible, I guess. Is there still time for Tesla to become the leader in battery tech rather than the Chinese? That's a great question, Harry Chu. I don't think it's important to be the leader. I think it'd be really good if the Chinese produced more batteries. Let me just be clear. I think CATL, which is a supplier of batteries to Tesla, producing more batteries is a good thing. I think this idea that there's some sort of rivalry between the United States and China, we are partners. I wish we would stop talking as if we are at each other's throats. I appreciate the Chinese for producing as many batteries as they produce. I appreciate the Chinese for producing as many solar panels as they produce. It would be great if America produced more batteries and America produced more solar panels. I have no problem with that. Then let's do it. But stop complaining about the Chinese doing it. Jeff Don has said that some of the best battery research is happening in China. I expect that to continue. And I hope. But as far as I can tell, Tesla's doing a great job doing battery research and producing batteries. Mark Anderson, guess at what year the first marriage to a Tesla bot is recognized? That's at least 20 years away, I think. Do I think GM is going bankrupt? Yes, I think that all major legacy automakers, with the possible exception of Hyundai, maybe Porsche, maybe one or two others, I think that all major legacy automakers will go bankrupt. And some of the startups like Lucid Motors will go bankrupt. I think that some of them will get bailed out by their governments. The bailouts will not change what's fundamentally wrong with those car companies, and they will go bankrupt again. That's my prediction. What about deep sea mining of the sediment for lithium material? I don't know anything about mining lithium in seabeds. I haven't heard that. I don't know anything about that. I don't think that John Harrison says a smaller antenna for Starlink is for mobile applications on standard cars, needs higher power of V2 satellites. I don't think that Elon feels that Starlink on cars is an important application. Any reaction to Jordan Gieseke's analysis of Tesla Semi? I watched it. I agreed with it. I don't have anything in particular to say about it. Am I planning to check out the Boca Chica Starships in person soon? So I have been to Boca Chica, the southern tip of Texas, and I've seen the Starship facility, the Starship facilities, 4 days, one trip, and 1 day another trip. And I am planning to go to the orbital launch. Harry Chu says, no one needs to worry about the Chinese producing batteries. We want Tesla's cost of goods sold to come down over time. Look, the only way Tesla's costs of goods sold when it comes to the battery component is we've got to get more lithium. We've got to get more materials. We've got to get that stuff going. Am I worried about Ross's board of directors' ambition? No, I'm not. I'm annoyed by Ross's effort to get on the board of directors, but I'm not worried about it. I think that Tesla would be fine. Bill says, could you pass my number on to all the girls at line dancing, please? Most of the girls at line dancing don't have my number. Isn't Porsche owned by VW? I think Porsche was spun out as an IPO, but VW probably still owns most of it. I don't remember what happened with that. Does the lithium supply model account for the recycled supply that will eventually be available? Let me address that because I hear that comment a lot. That, battery recycling is going to solve the availability of lithium and other battery supply chain stuff. So right now, in 2022, the world produced 700 gigawatt hours of battery cells. In 2030, as I understand it, the world's going to need 10 terawatt hours, or 13x, 14x what was done in 2022. The batteries that were produced in 2022 and went into products will not be recycled for about 10 years. So that's 2032. So you go back to, let's say, 2019, and let's say the batteries from 2019 are going to be ready to be recycled in 2030. And there were 300 gigawatt hours of batteries in 2030. So you recycle 300 gigawatt hours of batteries, or 0.3 terawatt hours, when you're using 10 terawatt hours. It's less than 5% of the battery materials you need. It's not nothing, but it's as long as we're seeing rapid growth in batteries, recycling of old batteries, you're going back 10 years to when there were a lot fewer batteries produced, so there's a lot fewer batteries to recycle. And then really the goal is to have batteries last longer than 10 years. So that's a challenge. It's until you get to a steady state. Jordan Giesecke thinks that a significant percentage of the battery materials that are used to produce batteries today goes to waste, like 5% or 8% or something like that, and recycling that is meaningful. But you still don't get to 10% of battery materials coming from recycling. So you still have to get a lot out of the ground. No, the line dancing girls do not have my number, but thank you for thinking of it. There are women at line dancing who do have my number, and I was out with a couple of them last night, but hashtag not my girlfriends. Can you give an update on Arcimoto? Great question. Arcimoto just announced that they started production again. I believe they've been trying to raise money. They probably successfully raised money to move forward, but I don't have any further insight than that. Mitchell Woolrich says he's driving an 11-year-old Tesla Model S. The battery holds 90% of original charge. No recycling needed yet. Yeah, I mean, it depends. Look, some percentage of Tesla vehicles will need their batteries redone in 10 years, but the vast majority won't. Can they mine lithium from space rocks? This is another common thing I hear people saying is, we'll get the battery minerals from asteroids. My own personal view is that it's probably costs less to get battery materials on Earth than it does to get battery materials from space. Even as it gets harder to get battery materials on Earth, it's still easier on Earth than it is to go into space and get them. Think about this. Starship has a payload capacity of, let's say, 100 tons. So you go out and you get 100 tons in a Starship and bring it back. That's not going to meaningfully contribute to the amount of tonnage that we need. Vehicle Assassin says recycling will be 90% by 2035 or 2040. I don't think even by 2040. I don't think we've achieved steady state by 2040. I think we're continuing to grow in 2030. You need to be steady state from 2030 to 2040 in order for that to be true. And I don't know if we've quite reached steady state by 2030. And if the batteries last 25 years, then it takes a lot longer. I think the idea is that the grid storage batteries by 2030 will be lasting 25 years. If they're lasting 25 years, then it's 25 years until you're recycling those batteries. So it takes a long time. Won't old car batteries be used for grid storage? No, grid storage, this is another common thing that people think is that there's a second life for vehicle batteries. And I saw J.B. Straubel. J.B. Straubel is the former chief technology officer of Tesla. He co-founded Tesla with Elon, the real Tesla, not the fake Martin Eberhard Tesla. And he's the current founder and CEO of Redwood Materials, which is recycling battery materials. Second life of vehicle batteries are not reliable enough for grid storage. Grid storage requires highly reliable battery cells, and vehicle batteries that have gone through, that have become unreliable for vehicle use, are not reliable for grid storage use. Nuxley says, can TeslaBot get more out of mining in the future? Cat is developing autonomous megatrucks. I don't know that. I'm sure there's potential role for TeslaBot in mining, but I don't know what that is. If the moon was covered in gold bricks, it still wouldn't be viable to go and get them. And I want to point this point about asteroid mining. It's very possible that there will be useful mining of asteroids, or mining on Mars, or mining on the moon. But those materials will be used for space activities. If you mine materials on Mars, you'll use them on Mars. If you mine materials in asteroids, you might use them on Mars or use them on the moon. You're not going to use them there. Sorry. Interesting. That was one of the line dancing women who has my number. So, does Tesla need an R1S or Suburban equivalent? Model X seems more like a minivan, not a large SUV or off-roader. I've driven my Model X off-road. I don't think that's a high priority for Tesla. I think we're more focused on volume. I think Cybertruck will be off-road, and there might be an SUV version of Cybertruck. Kenton says, how far are we away from solid-state batteries in cars? I think at best we're 5 years away from solid-state batteries, and probably more like 10 years. But I think the important thing is that solid-state batteries don't matter as much as people think. The batteries we have today are good enough. The nickel-based batteries, the nickel-based 4680s, the nickel-based 2170s are great. They are great battery cells. They're good enough to convert the entire vehicle fleet. All the cars, all the semis, they're already good enough. Tesla Semi is using 2170s. It's good enough. Solid state is potentially better in terms of energy density. But if the problem is getting enough lithium to produce enough kilowatt hours, then you have the question, does solid state get you more kilowatt hours per gram of lithium, or per kilogram of lithium? And I don't know the answer to that yet. I actually asked that question. I don't know the answer. Jupiter James says, why does Elon poop on the idea of O'Neill cylinders? Space colonies like that would be amazing. I don't think he's opposed to O'Neill cylinders. For people who don't know, it's a proposal that Jeff Bezos likes, that he talked about for Blue Origin, of creating really large colonies in space that are rotating cylinders so you get artificial gravity. I think the amount of mass you have to assemble to either put into orbit or get from asteroids to build the O'Neill cylinders is very, very hefty. And I think Elon's perception is that Mars is good enough. It may be that Bezos is right and Elon's wrong. I don't know. What is solid state in one sentence? I don't know about in one sentence, but solid state, batteries have a cathode on one side and an anode on the other side, and the ions from the lithium or sodium, if we go to sodium-ion batteries, move back and forth. The cathode, I believe, is the positive side, and the anode is the negative side. So as you charge the battery, all the ions go into the cathode side. And as you discharge the battery, as you're using the electricity, the ions go into the anode side. The electrolyte's in the middle, and it's currently a liquid in most batteries that I know of. And there's an effort to see if you can go to a solid electrolyte, which has a variety of potential advantages, but so far nobody's been able to come close to making them at scale. Make Cybertruck be the next Bond car. I have the idea for having we're going to do a viral video. I have made some steps toward this. When I get my Cybertruck, we're going to do a video and try to make it go viral of country line dancing in front of my favorite line dancing place. Do I think Tesla's battery cells are already long lasting enough that Tesla could offer vehicle to house in the new cars as an emergency power supply? Yeah, well, first of all, yes. I mean, Ford is doing it. So yes, there's no question that Tesla could offer vehicle to house or vehicle to grid with existing vehicles. You'd have to change some wiring on some vehicles, and you'd have to, more importantly, you'd have to change wiring in the house. And you might have to change wiring in the local grid. If you're just doing the vehicle to house, that might be relatively straightforward. But I don't think Tesla thinks that's an important part of what they're doing. You can buy a Powerwall. Buying one Powerwall gets you pretty much a lot. So, yeah, you get more electricity out of a Cybertruck or a car battery, but that use case is really, really rare. So it's not very important. Can I talk about why Tesla's opening the supercharger network to others? What advantages for Tesla? Well, number one, Tesla makes a profit on supercharger. Number two, Tesla's mission is not to make money for shareholders. Tesla's mission is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy, and enabling other EV makers to use Tesla superchargers and accelerates the transition to sustainable energy. Tesla, it's not necessarily wise to think Tesla's going to do it alone. Bastian, I'll come back to your question in a second. So and I have a theory about when Tesla's going to make superchargers available. I think the vast majority of EVs that are out there cannot use 250 kilowatts. So it doesn't make sense to invite other EVs to use 250 kilowatt chargers. So my best guess is that Tesla will open up 150 kilowatt and 120 kilowatt superchargers to other EV makers, other EVs. The other advantage to so that way the 250 kilowatt superchargers are free, and the faster chargers that are coming, the V4 superchargers that are coming, are available to regular. You probably let Porsche charge on the faster chargers, but you wouldn't want a vehicle that charges at 75 kilowatts charging on a 250 kilowatt supercharger. It would be a waste. Thank you, Ralph Mal, for your support. Really appreciate that. So the other advantage and the reason why, let's think about this for a second. Ford and Volkswagen and General Motors do not want their vehicle owners charging at Tesla supercharger stations. They don't want that. Because if they charge at a Tesla supercharger station, number one, they're going to have to get the Tesla app on their phone. You're going to see the Tesla brand when they go to charge. They're probably going to end up talking to Tesla owners, and they might get a lot more exposure to why Teslas are better than their cars. And they might start thinking, why did I buy this crappy EV when I could have bought a Tesla? So it's not clear that other car makers want their owners to. So the advantage for Tesla is that they expose a lot of prime EV buyers to Tesla branding and Tesla quality and talking to Tesla owners who tend to love Teslas. Stephen Brewer says, what happens if battery density increases and cost decreases enough to refresh old vehicles with new batteries would look very attractive to owners? I've thought about that for my Model 3. Right now, my Model 3 seems to have great battery life with 100,000 miles in it. I think it still has over 300 miles of range or close to 300 miles of range. So, but I've thought about, if they came out with, let's say, a 90 kilowatt hour pack, because right, mine has a 75 kilowatt hour pack. If they came out with a 90 kilowatt hour pack, and I could get that for $5,000, yeah, I might want to buy that. But I think that Tesla's focus is to get more vehicles out there, rather than putting those batteries into old vehicles. Bastiano says, do you think Tesla will one day become a housing developer? I've actually made a video about Tesla going into housing probably a couple years ago. Every home built would be outfitted with solar roofs and a power wall. Seems like a no-brainer. I have not heard any hint that Tesla is going in that direction. There's some talk about a new development of homes going up on Boring Company property or near Boring Company property in Bastrop, Texas, but it's only 110 homes. I don't think that Tesla's going in that direction. I think they could. I think not just solar roofs and power wall, but HVAC. I think there's a couple other things that they could incorporate that would make homes better. I haven't seen any hint that Tesla's going there, and I'm working on my own housing startup, and I expect to build my prototype this summer and hopefully move into it in November. And then I think I'm going to, if it works out, I'm going to build 10 of them and then do a crowdfunding round and build 100 of them or more. Seen reports on internet, taken with a grain of salt, that an American company is developing a battery that can be charged in a short period of time and last for a few thousand miles. Yeah, there's reports like that all the time. There's always reports about BS stories about somebody's got some crazy new battery technology. Oh, by the way, I just want to mention, I'm going to wrap this video up in 20 minutes, and I'm going to go live on The Daily Lie, which is my other channel. There's a link in the video description below. I'll put a link here now. I'll put a link in the chat. It'll be at the top of the chat. I'm doing a video about Tiger Woods in that. So the Daily Lie, and while I'm talking about it, please consider supporting me on The Daily Lie, the Locals platform. The video will be free, but you can support me on that platform, and some of the content on that platform is for supporters only. Stephen Brewer says it's much faster to rebattery an existing vehicle than build one from scratch. We'll see in 10 years. Yes, but the new vehicle is going to be much better and much more efficient than the old vehicle. And the new vehicle might need less batteries than the old. So I think the Generation 3 platform vehicle will have battery packs roughly half the size of Model 3. So you can get 2 new vehicles with the same amount of batteries that are going into your old Model 3. So I think if we have crazy battery supply, then sure. You'll probably see aftermarket, you'll be able to buy a battery pack from somebody else and put it on your Tesla. Jim Whitehead, any chance the EV Octavalve would be turned into a home AC heat pump and hot water system? I think more than that, you could have your refrigerator run on a Tesla HVAC system potentially. I think there's a lot of ways you could make that work. You could have the oven. I think there's an open question of how much of your house's heating and cooling functions could all be incorporated into one system. Is Locals available outside the USA? I don't see why it wouldn't be. WarrenRedlick.locals.com. Why wouldn't it be? Elon will say in 2030, when the U.S. government tries to call Tesla monopoly, that, look, we allowed other companies to charge with superchargers, and we allowed all companies to have our patents. I do think that the biggest threat to Tesla in the long term, one of the biggest threats to Tesla in the long term is antitrust lawsuits by governments, efforts to break up Tesla as a monopoly. I think that's a serious risk. Be Nice says, would that make the car too light? I don't know how a car could be too light. All right, let's talk about the Gen 3 vehicles. I see a couple people talking about it. We kind of touched on it. I'm expecting that they're going to talk about the Gen 3 vehicle. My gut prediction is that the Gen 3 vehicle will be roughly the size of a Toyota Corolla, significantly smaller than a Model 3, and it will have a 40 kilowatt hour pack, 6 miles per kilowatt hour, 240 miles of range. That's the base model. There probably will be another model that will have more range. But I think that's the robo-taxi. I think a robo-taxi can get by with 240 miles of range. That'd be plenty. And if you can do that vehicle at 40 kilowatt hours instead of 80 kilowatt hours, you can make twice as many vehicles with the same number of battery cells. That's why that matters. Jim Whitehead says a boxable type house with a defined space would be wonderful for an Octavalve for all heating cooling. I don't know that matters which style. I think there's an open question whether you can do something with that. Thank you, B. Maybe a van that can be a robotaxi. So one of my theories about the Generation 3 platform vehicle is there will be more than one type of vehicle built on the platform. I think the obvious first vehicle will be a commuter vehicle that seats maybe 4 or 5 people, but smaller, like the size of a Toyota Corolla. And then on the same platform, could you build a small cargo van or minivan? I think it's possible. Sentient says, can union formation succeed at Tesla like what happened at Amazon? Union formation can succeed anywhere. I don't know what happened at Amazon, frankly, but as far as I can tell, Tesla workers do not want to unionize. They get really good benefits and perks and everything. I don't think Tesla workers gain that much from unionization, and I think they know that. Sevilla says, my car has 2170s. Will 4680s fit if I ever want to replace them? I think it's not likely that they would fit because 4680s are 10 millimeters taller. And it's not, you don't replace them one cell at a time, you replace a pack, so you would need a pack. Thank you, Matt, for your comment about boxable. Tesla HVAC will happen integrated with Powerwall. I think it will happen. I just don't know when. I don't think that's a high priority for Tesla. But that could be something that they could break at any point. Will Gen 3 have lidars? Everything I've seen, Generation 3 will not have lidars. There's some rumor of high definition radar that seems pretty credible. That there'll be 11 cameras, including the interior camera, and there'll be a high-definition radar, but I don't know. Can Investor Day be used as a recruitment event? I'm confident that Investor Day will be used as a recruitment event. Just scroll back here. I just want to come some other thoughts. I don't expect... I don't expect that we're going to see anything about FSD of significance at Investor Day. It's possible we'll see something about FSD, but I feel like Tesla's already presented extensively on FSD and bot at previous events. I don't think we're going to see semi at Investor Day because we just saw a semi event and then the Nevada Gigafactory update event, which are both semi related. I don't think we're going to 40. I don't think we're going to get a 4690 update. The one thing I think we might hear about is whether they're going to do something with manufacturing lithium iron phosphate battery cells in the United States. I think there's a really strong case for making lithium iron phosphate battery cells. For those who don't know, the nickel-based cells that are in most of Tesla cars are higher energy density, and that's important for car use. They are using lithium iron phosphate batteries in some cars, and those are less energy density, which means they weigh more and they take up more space. And what typically happens is that vehicle has less range, although you're able to charge to 100%, there's advantages to it. And lithium iron phosphate is also really good for grid storage and energy storage like Megapack and Powerwall. So with the Inflation Reduction Act tax credits that were passed, Tesla benefits more if those batteries are made in the United States. So I think Tesla might do that. Will Generation 3 have front and rear sides all in one casting like their patent outlines? I don't. I think we're going to find that out. I think the important thing to think about with the Generation 3 platform vehicle is it's not just about the vehicle. It's about the vehicle and the factory, and they are paired. They're together. There's a duality. You want to make the vehicle better, but it's really important that you make the vehicle easy to manufacture. And making the vehicle, how you're making the vehicle to manufacture requires making the factory better. And there's this back and forth between what's going to be in the vehicle and what's going to be in the factory to make that vehicle. And so you want fewer parts and fewer processes and so on. So if you can do a complete casting of the entire frame of the vehicle, that would be great. But I don't think that's that much of an improvement compared to front and rear castings and structural pack. It's an improvement. It saves some value, but I don't think that's nearly as important as getting enough lithium for everything. Chris Anderson says possibly Hardware 4 has a microphone. I think there already is a microphone. I think the cars already have a microphone. I don't know if they're using the microphone yet. Thoughts on Elon unfollowing Andrei Karpathy? I don't think that's important. Will Tesla actually buy the Sigma Lithium company? There's this rumor floating around that Tesla's going to buy some lithium company and the stock of that company's way up. I suspect that rumor is baseless. When do we get the first all-bot brothel? I don't think that's an appropriate question for here. Mitchell says, cost-wise, Generation 3 will have to be LFP to get to half price. I think it's possible. I think it's likely that the Generation 3 vehicle will start with a lithium iron phosphate battery pack, but I could see them making a nickel-based battery pack as well for the vehicle. 472 Waters says, Warren, how did you become such a good investor? Can anyone be anything close like you? I don't think I'm that necessarily that good of an investor. I think the one thing I have is patience, and I don't panic. So I've been investing for 30 years in that ballpark. I've owned a lot of different stocks over the years, and I came to the conclusion that I have conviction that I'm all in on Tesla stock. I don't know if that makes me a good investor. That just makes me a particular type of investor. I'm a conviction investor. I'm not tied to diversification anymore. I think that's a thing that I used to believe in that I don't believe in anymore. And I think you have to find your own path as an investor. I don't think you should just rely on Warren says this. For me, I just see Tesla as this great investment. And I struggle to see where else I would put my money other than my own startups that I want to pursue because I'm an idiot. So, I mean, I think I have a video on my channel, like Investing 101 or something like that, that I think is a useful starting point. But if you get to the point where you believe in a company, I mean, the really simple answer, if you're fully convicted on Tesla, is just buy Tesla stock. A lot of people, wealth managers and others would say you want to be diversified. So I diversified by owning Tesla stock in multiple accounts. But that's probably not what they mean by diversification. I think the standard advice would be that you should be well diversified, and you probably shouldn't have any more than 5 or 10% of your portfolio in one stock. I have more than 90% in Tesla, so I don't know if that makes me a good investor. Stephen Brewer says, will Generation 3 have compact sedan and a hatchback? I think that we're going to see something like maybe a hatchback version, and then something larger, like a minivan or cargo van version. That's just a guess. 472 Water says, but everyone else couldn't understand Tesla. Buffett, Einhorn, Bill Ackerman, Charlie Munger, Blackstone, no private equity. No one did, just you and other retail investors are objective. Look, it doesn't mean I'm right. Like, I believe it. You gotta make your own judgment about whether you believe in the Tesla story. Most of the people watching this channel probably believe in the Tesla story. If you believe in the Tesla story and you've done, the term that people use is due diligence. You have to do your own due diligence. You have to do your own research, form your own opinion. Don't just rely on some bald YouTuber with funny glasses and strange lighting behind him and telling you what stock to buy. Right? I have my opinion, and I've formed that opinion over several years of studying Tesla. I started buying in 2016, and as I kept studying it more and more, I believe in it more and more and more. But that doesn't mean you have to. You've got to form your own judgment. You might see some other company out there that you think is a better bet. I think if you don't have the conviction that I have in Tesla stock, then it's wiser to be diversified and just buy an S&P 500 index fund and maybe buy a little bit of Tesla on the side. I can't tell you what to do. Hire a wealth manager if you're not sure how to do that. Talk to Bradford Ferguson. So, who's that? Ice Wendigo says, a self-driving Tesla with Octaval is a great value, but a self-piloting boat or catamaran with heat freeze system water maker would be amazing and incredible. Yes, but the market for self-piloting boats and catamarans is very small compared to cars. There's a much bigger market for cars. That's why they focus on it. Do you see the risk that BYD could stop battery supply to get higher market share in cars? I think there's going to be a competition for battery supply, and not just battery supply, but the supply of battery materials. I think that's a great question. That's Chris Thomas. I think that in the end, because Tesla is the highest margin producer of vehicles, the highest margin user, they make more profit from the batteries that they use than anyone else, means they can outbid everyone else for the batteries that they need. But that only works if enough batteries are produced for Tesla's needs. You're still going to need 3 terawatt hours of batteries produced. And other people might get mad if Tesla bought all the batteries. So you really need a much larger battery production. And so that, yes, there will be competition for the batteries and the battery supplies, but you need enough so that there's enough for everybody. Mitchell Woolridge says you only need one 100-bagger stock in your life to make you very wealthy. Well, it depends what you start with, Mitchell. If you start with $1,000, a 100-bagger is not going to get you there. I think that I think the biggest thing would be if we're going to do financial advice is don't waste money. Cook at home more, eat out less, drink less alcohol. If you're going to drink at home. Don't go out and buy drinks. Don't smoke cigarettes. Don't use drugs. Minimize your spending wherever you can. Make as much money as you can so you have more money to invest in buying stock and buying Tesla stock if that's what you're going to invest in. The idea that there's some sort of magic trick to invest $1,000 and turn it into $10 million by playing options games or buying on margin, all these other things, I think that's a very risky approach and probably not wise. And it's a much better approach to suck it up and spend your money more carefully and work a little harder, make more money, and then invest. What's the best way to deal with fudsters and Luddites who are against phasing out natural gas appliances in New York State? Well, I don't believe that anything should be phased out until there's an adequate, just simply outcompete. If the electrical alternative is better than the gas alternative, then it'll take over. If it's not better, then it shouldn't take over. All right, we got 5 minutes left. CM, Warren, you predict bot will shoot Tesla to $95,000. Is that really reasonable? If yes, by when then? I don't remember making the $95,000 stock price prediction. My guess would be that was a pre-split number and it was a possible outcome, not my likely outcome. I do think that Tesla bot could be insanely valuable. I'm not alone in that. Jason DeBolt thinks that. Dave Lee thinks that. My simple napkin math on Tesla bot is if a Tesla bot can replace a $15 an hour worker. Let's say you've got a McDonald's that has 10, $15 an hour workers working on a shift, and the Tesla bot is able to do enough work to take off, so to allow the employer to let one worker go. So now 9 workers are doing the same work as the 10 were with the bot helping out. If the worker costs the employer $15 an hour and the bot works 2 shifts, that works out to $60,000 a year that the owner saved. And if the bot lasts 10 years, that saved the owner $600,000. So what's the owner going to pay for the bot? I'm going to say he's going to easily pay $100,000 for that bot. I think it's going to cost Tesla $5,000 to make the bot. So that's $95,000 in gross profit per bot. That's not very complicated. And it might be more. It might be worth $200,000. Then the question is, what's the market for bot? I would say it's arguably unlimited. And then over time, as you train bot is able to do higher value work. The other side of that is people saying bot's going to put people out of work. They said that about automated teller machines. Automated teller machines made bank employees more productive, and we ended up with double the number of tellers. So don't underestimate the ability of a dynamic economy to accommodate more workers producing more stuff and producing more services. Zeke says, is Farley's admission, Farley is the CEO of Ford, that the sign that the competition is an illusion and Wall Street starts to buy the story? I think Farley admitted that Ford is way behind Tesla on, I think, manufacturing efficiency. I think that's a really good sign, but Wall Street didn't get it. No. Why do I think Tesla does not adapt to battery swap like NIO? I have one or two videos on my channel saying why battery swap is stupid. You can't do structural pack with battery swap, for one thing. And battery swap is just it's not a good use of capital. It's not a good choice. I think NIO is wrong, but hey, I could be wrong. Hopefully I'll be less wrong. Will the government eventually try to tax the labor of robots? What wouldn't government tax if it could? Government will tax everything it can. All right, so I'm going to wrap this up now. I want to thank everybody for watching. I want to especially thank moderators Mark Plott, Mark Potocnik, and Jim Whitehead for helping out. Please check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com, Cybertruck t-shirt, Tesla Man t-shirt. Investor Day will be fun. Pay attention. I'll be talking more about it soon. But please check out, I'm going to be going to the Locals platform next to talk about Tiger Woods and tampons and an apology, which is something I'm more comfortable talking about on a free speech platform that might get censored if I talked about it in depth on YouTube. That's just the reality of YouTube. So thanks, everybody. Check out my other videos. Check out the t-shirts at elonbits.com. Support me on Locals on Patreon or as a YouTube channel member. Like this video, share, and subscribe. And thank you so much for watching.